What's up guys, I'm Nick and this is Build Dad Build, a place where we firmly believe before you go round and round, you gotta go round the outside, round the outside. All right guys, I did make a video on how to kind of tilt your rotary to accommodate like a pint glass or something, but I have gotten the question on how do you do that with something like this. Something like one of these big bad boys. This is a 30-ounce tumbler. It has this kind of weird shape to it, and it's definitely tapered, but it is also bottom heavy as well because it's insulated, so this is heavy. So even kind of tilting your rotary up on this probably won't help you so much. They do have some 3D printed options out there and some different lift type situations you can buy, but you have all the materials and all the tools you need to take care of this yourself, and I'm gonna show you how to do it today, guys. I'm gonna show you how to do it today. You can do it yourself. And not only can you do it yourself,
but you can do it with style.
So today we're gonna be using the xTool D1 10-watt diode laser. We will be using the rotary attachment. We'll be using all the bells and whistles. We've got the honeycomb in there right now. I may even hook up the air assist. How does that sound, guys? If you guys are interested in a setup kind of like this, I will link down below to xTool site. I also will put my promo code down there, which is good for 8% off. It covers tax, but you know what? It's better than nothing. Okay, so in order to get measurements off of your tumbler, you are going to measure from the top to the bottom. So this is going to be 100 millimeters. I'm gonna make that first ring 100 millimeters, and I'm just doing this in LaserBox Basic in their proprietary software. And then you're going to make a second ring. What I'm doing now is I'm measuring the width of the bottom, and it looks like it's about 70 millimeters, so I'm gonna make it about 80, so it'll push up on here a little bit. I will make that second ring 80 millimeters, and then I'm just gonna pull that second ring into the first ring and snap it to center. And once I've done that, I'm gonna come into the cut menu, I'm gonna select basswood. Let's go with 4 millimeters. I usually go a little thicker when I'm using plywood. And then, so the preset settings for that is 100% power, 3 millimeters per second. We will frame it just to make sure. Right now, what I'm using is just a piece of scrap. So don't use a new piece of material in this, save your scraps. Okay, and the product we're gonna use today on the stainless steel to make it extra dark is a product called Enduramark Black. If you guys have been around lasers for a little bit, you're gonna hear that name and you're gonna think two things. One, it doesn't work with diodes. Guess what? I've tested it and it works with the xTool D1 10-watt. Two, you're gonna think, ooh, expensive. Well, here's the deal. Enduramark claims that the novice user can get about 100 tumblers out of one can of this. An experienced user can get about 300. I don't know about you guys, but using dry moly, I've gone through like a can and a half, and there's no way I've done 100 pieces. So if that's the case, the price point gets a little bit more reasonable. And to sweeten the pot, I will leave you a promo code right here for 20% off your order. You're welcome. But check it out, it's really good stuff. All right, so you wanna put it on, you wanna just do a kind of a light coat. This is how I do it. I go one up, one this way, and then kind of lets it dry just a little bit. I'm gonna come in and I'm just gonna do one more coat. You'll notice that I'm in an enclosed space. I don't have a window open. There's not that spray paint odor, and as much as it looks kind of like a spray paint, it actually goes on like a powder. So once you do this, it dries pretty quickly. It dries in about 5 minutes, but if you touch it, like I'll touch down here because we're not gonna engrave down here, but it'll smudge and it'll come off on your finger. Whoop. But the beauty of this is that it's dry and ready to go in about 5 minutes, as opposed to dry moly where you've got to do multiple coats. You're looking at about 45 minutes to prep. 5 minutes. We're ready to go. I can literally put this on the rotary right now and start engraving. The little trick I like to use when I'm engraving cylindrical objects is, I don't know if you can even see it, I just do a faint little line. I don't even know if it's showing up on camera. There it is. Can you see that? There's just a little tiny pencil mark right there. What that's telling me is where the center of this is. So when I have it on the rotary and I'm framing, if it gets off for whatever reason, I'm not gonna go off of my engraving go outside of where I've put the Enduramark. Okay, it's the next day. Not that there was anything that took very long. I just had to go pick up the kids. But a couple of things to take into consideration. One, when you're using your Rotary from xTool, you want to switch this over to the third so you get the widest base for it. Some people have asked me how to swap this out. Basically, you just take this screw out right here, and then you can pick this piece up and move the whole thing over, screw it back in, you are good to go. Make sure that you can read all of your lettering or your image is gonna be inverted. And we're just gonna put this right in the bed here, plug it in right here. And I went ahead and cut a second one of these just to make this a little thicker. So I just cut two the same size. And then this is how you're gonna roll here. You're just gonna put this on, and now you have stabilization further back. Okay, so now when I set this guy in here, see how we have support on the back end and it doesn't rock out with its socks out? But this is gonna be like kind of your little stabilizer gasket in the back. Then we're gonna, here's that point again. Let me see if I can, if I'll focus. If you can see my pencil mark is right there. I don't know if it's focusing in on it. There it is. Okay, so right there, pencil mark. So now I'm just gonna pull my image into LaserBox Basic. I know that it needs to be about 100 by 100. I will probably go about 95 just to make that happen. Then I'm going to turn it 90 degrees to the right. And that is because what I'm looking at on my screen here, and if you come over here, this is the tumbler. So the orientation of this needs to be on its side because it's gonna print this way. Okay, so 90 gets it to where I want it. We've got it sized. And then one of the other beautiful things about Enduramark is that using this, you can run at a higher speed to get the same results or to get darker results actually. So as you can see, you can run this much faster than if you're running dry moly. Dry moly, you run about 12 millimeters per second. Here, like we can do 35, 40 millimeters per second and still get a good result. Okay, so the settings I'm running are 100% power, 35 millimeters per second for speed. And just remember that when I give you my settings, mileage may vary on those settings. You definitely want to use those as a jumping off point, but you may need to tweak them a little bit for your environment. You may be more humid, it may be hot or colder there, something along those lines. So just keep that in mind. Next up, come in here, get my kickstand out, and I'm gonna try to drop this as close to the top as possible. And the reason that is because if I do kind of scrape off some Enduramark, it's not gonna be in the middle of my deal here. All right, and then just looking for my pencil mark and lining that up and getting an idea of where I want it. And we'll frame here in a second and get it tweaked out a little bit more. Okay, so next thing, and this is kind of important when you're doing tumblers, especially big tumblers. I am in the working screen, which is the screen right before you hit start. And in the control panel, there is an area that says speed and distance, okay? And what you want to do is you want to turn your speed down. And it may seem like that's just to move the laser head around, but that also is how fast it's gonna move back. So when you're doing tumblers, if you have that set to 150 or whatever the top speed is, when it spins the tumbler back, sometimes it spins it so fast that the tumbler will actually jog back and forth. So you wanna turn that down. I'm gonna put this at like 20 for right now. It'll be a little slower when we frame, but you shouldn't see as much of that jumping around issue that I know a lot of you guys have. Oops. And see that right there? Rookie mistake. You know what I did? I didn't click the cylinder working switch. And if you do this, that's why. Okay, so now the cylinder's turning. Problem is, I didn't put my start point where I wanted to put it. So, let's make sure that we're still lined up. All right, so what I didn't do is I didn't move the blue dot to this point where I want it to be. All right, so we're gonna do that one more time. And now you should see it actually frame it out correctly. And as long as it's moving nice and slow like that, when we come back to our center point, it should be fine. So let's see. Yep, we're right on there. And now that we like all that stuff, we're just gonna hit start, let her rip. Okay, so runtime on that was about 35 minutes. Okay, so magic eraser, a little bit of water. All right guys, and before we take a look at the final result, I just want to say thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you like this kind of video, hit that like button. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, please consider subscribing. It really helps me out. Speaking of helping me out, I just want to say thanks to all of my patrons. These guys right down here, they're the ones that keep the lights on in the shop. They're the ones that keep the boat a-going. Especially my top tier patrons, or my Boilermaker patrons. Stephen Mann, Eric Weiss, Derek Coates, Chuck Faulkner, Puffy Muffins, Jim Carter, Andy the Viking, Dwight Smith, Christopher Walters, and Todd Stewart. It is like 9:30 in the morning, so no clinkies. Clinkies. If you haven't had a chance to check out my Patreon page, I'll put a link down below. Go check it out. Join up if that's your thing. All right, now let's take a look at this. Every time I look at this, it just makes me want to go to the lake. I think that's the only time I have a giant tumbler like this, but how good does that look? Nice. Let's try to tilt it a little bit so we can see it better. There we go. Who doesn't love a tumbler that says, if you rub my beard, I'll rub your butt. All right guys, that's it for this video. I hope it helped. Until next time, thanks for playing. And now I gotta get to work. I just set this whole thing up for the rotary attachment, forgetting that I have to cut first. Would you please exit the vehicle? The spiders are barking. I made the spider barking joke, and now my son is horrified of barking spiders. Da 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 da. It's the one and only D.O.G. Snoop Dogg, mother.